Welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 304 of the Unpopular podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And here at the Unpopular podcast, I'm not really asking you to agree with me. I'm just asking you to hear me out. There's a narrative going around that I kind of want to discuss before we jump into the NFL wild card prediction and stuff like that. Nobody is great 100% of the time. No one. I mean, you can look at any industry and think and look at someone's discography, look at someone's work. There's not always a hit. For instance, let's look at the movies. A lot of people, including, a lot of people's favorite actor is Denzel Washington. All right. Denzel Washington has some great movies. He has, of course, Training Day. He has Man on Fire. Denzel Washington is a great, and in my opinion, one of the greatest actors of all time. That doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that he hasn't missed. I mean, a lot of people didn't like Out of Time. A lot of people didn't like Pelham 1, 2, 3. Hell, a lot of people don't like The Equalizer. That doesn't mean he's not a good actor. It just means that he'd missed. Let's go to music. Jay-Z. Some people regard Jay-Z as the greatest rapper ever. One of the greatest, definitely one of the greatest discographies ever. A lot of people don't like Kingdom Come, that album. Hell, a lot of people don't like the American Gangster album. That doesn't mean Jay-Z doesn't still have a lated career, And you can look at it in TV. You can look at it in anything. Derek Carr had a bad season. Derek Carr had a bad season this year. Derek Carr had a bad season. Russell Wilson had a bad season this year. But when we talk about Derek Carr, I'm hearing a lot of people say, Derek Carr's washed up, Derek Carr's trash, Derek Carr has always been terrible. Let me put into context some things, because I think a report came out saying the Colts are not interested in Derek Carr, and there's going to be a small number of teams really interested in Derek Carr because of his quote unquote lack of success in Las Vegas. Let me put some things into context. Derek Carr, in his entire career, has never played on a team where that defense is higher than 25th, ranked 25th that season. He's never played with a defense higher or ranked higher than 25th. He's never played with an offensive line that was in the top 10. Never. I mean, do we need to bring up Alex Leatherwood? Do we need to bring up the multiple misses especially misses in the first round, that the Raiders have experienced with Derek Carr? But with those two stats, never having a defense that's above 25th and never having a top 10, actually top 15 offensive line, Derek Carr is still leads the league in comeback. Well, since he's been in the league, he leads the league in comeback wins. This is without a good defense. This is without a good offensive line. Ever. Since he's been in the league, he leads the league in fourth quarter comebacks. I think he's number one. I believe Matthew Stafford or something's number 2. You see, don't get it twisted, bro. Everyone can have a bad year. Jay-Z made Kingdom Come. Denzel Washington made Pelham 1, 2, 3. Not saying that those are good. Those aren't bad albums, and that's not a bad movie, but people don't like those. When you put Pelham 1, 2, 3 up against, Training Day, up against out a man on fire up against, I don't know, what's another good one that he's in. Some of the Glory. Though, Pelham 123 doesn't stack up. When you put Kingdom Come up against Blueprint, up against the Black Album, up against, 444 or whatever, it doesn't equate. Yes, Derek Carr had a bad season, especially after you get Devontae Adams, especially after you still have Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, you have Josh Jacobs. I'm not going to lie and say that there weren't high expectations for the Raiders going into this year, especially with the offseason acquisitions. And I'm also not going to lie and say that Derek Carr did not play to what we've known him to. Yes, Derek Carr has had a bad season, but let's not act like Derek Carr wouldn't make a team better. And then I got to thinking, what team would work for Derek Carr that's probably looking? Now, of course, you can say, oh, Derek Carr can go to the Chiefs and they'll be better. No, we're talking about teams that are looking for a quarterback or need a quarterback. And there's one that keeps rearing its head, unfortunately. And fortunately, I guess, in a sense. And that is the Miami Dolphins. You see, we don't know the history of Tua. Not history. We don't know the future. I'm sorry. We don't know the future of Tua. We don't know how Tua is going to come back. We don't know this. We also understand that Miami's third string quarterback will be starting in this year's playoffs because Tua's concussions, because Teddy Bridgewater has a broken pinky, I believe. So we do know that while Tua can be good and is good, he's not that available. We also know that Derek Carr is very reliable when we talk about, injuries and being on the field. I could see Derek Carr thriving in Miami. Hotter weather. You have Jalen Waddle. You have Tyreek Hill. You have Raheem Mostert. You have a good defense, a good offensive line, a good coach. It just fits. Now, that would mean that they'd probably have to get off Tua, but maybe not. Maybe you can be a quarterback battle, and we'll see. But to think that the Colts wouldn't be better with Derek Carr, with Quentin Nelson, that offensive line, with Shaq Leonard, DeForest Buckner coming, like Jonathan Taylor at the running back. Now, yes, the wide receiver core outside of Michael Pittman, but to think Washington wouldn't be better with Derek Carr. Washington had Taylor Heineke, Carson Wentz, and Sam Howell. You put Derek Carr with that offensive line, which isn't the best, but the offensive line, you have Terry McLaurin, you have Curtis Samuel, that defense. What I'm saying is this, man. It would be disingenuous to say that Derek Carr didn't have a bad season, because he did. Now, I'm also not putting this entire season on Derek Carr. I do think, and we'll talk about that in a second, about coaching. I do think coaching was a big part. Injuries was a big part. Darren Waller didn't play most of the year. But yes, Derek Carr did have a bad season, and a lot of Derek Carr's poor play this year was, shine bright because of the situation that was Vegas. I mean, hell, we've seen how many picks he's had, But let's be honest about Derek Carr. He had a bad season. He has not had a bad career. And I'm not saying he's a top 10 quarterback. But I'm also not saying that he's a trash quarterback like a lot of people are saying. That's all I'm saying. Because, again, since he's been in the league, he leads the league in fourth quarter comebacks. Fourth quarter comeback wins. And this is, again, This is behind. He's never had a top 15 offensive line, and he's never had a top 20 defense. And look at his coaching situations. Look at the coaching situations that Derek Carr has had to deal with. Speaking of coaching, I'm hearing a lot about Sean Payton. Where's Sean Payton gonna go? Where's Sean Payton's excellence needed? And I think a report came out the other day saying that the Denver Broncos is the number one destination right now, or pretty much the leader of the pack as far as destinations for Sean Payton. Sean Payton said that he's looking for a stable front office, and he's looking to build with a quarterback. Coaching is different for different sports. Coaching is important, but it's important in different senses. Like, I think coaching probably is the most important when we talk about college sports, college football, college basketball. When you look at all the great college teams, whatever sport, they usually have a good coach. And good coach, especially in college, also usually equates to good recruiting and having good players and success. I mean, look at Georgia, just won back-to-back championships. We understand that Kirby Smart is a really good coach. Of course, we have Alabama. Lincoln Riley is a good coach. And we see the turnaround, even though USC didn't win, we see the turnaround that USC had, especially with him and Caleb Williams. We talk about college basketball. Gino Auriemma is a great coach. Don Staley is a great coach. Go to the men's side. Coach K was a great coach. Roy Williams was a great coach. You know, great coaching shines bright in college, in the college realm. In the NFL, great coaching can be sneaky. Great coaching can be sneaky because the talent level is different, of course, in the NFL. Some coaches is glaring that they're a great coach, like Kyle Shanahan. He's a great coach. Glaring. Bill Belichick. Just look at the success. Great coach. Now he hasn't had the best last few years, but he's still a great coach. Sean Payton is one of those coaches. And another way that you can tell if a coach is good or not is look at what happened when they left an organization, or look at their organization without them. The Saints, while yes, there was a lot of factors that contribute to it, the Saints did not make the playoffs this year. The Saints had quarterback turmoil when we talk about Andy Dalton, when we talk about Jameis Winston. You've had multiple injuries, multiple situations. Like, the Saints look drastically different with Sean Payton and without Sean Payton. And you can also tell how good a coach is by the demand of the coach. It's kind of like free agency. Think about this. Or I'll say it like this. When Kevin Durant asked for a trade, almost every team, I think every team outside of maybe one or two teams, called the Brooklyn Nets trying to get Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is that seismic of a shift. Kevin Durant is that good of a player that every single team would want Kevin Durant. Let me ask you this. If Kyle Shanahan said, you know what, I'm done with the 49ers, I want to go coach somewhere else, you think he wouldn't have a laundry list of suitors? That's Kyle Shanahan. And we see the impact Kyle Shanahan has had on the San Francisco 49ers. Just as much as good coaching is glaring, bad coaching is even more glaring. And when I say bad coaching, I'm not saying they're bad people, but maybe bad coaches, like Nathaniel Hackett. Didn't even last the entire season. Nathaniel Hackett, again, I've said this multiple times. There are some people that are better coordinators than they are head coaches, and Nathaniel Hackett, in my opinion, falls in that group. Josh McDaniels falls in that group. I think a lot of what went wrong for the Raiders this year falls a lot on Josh McDaniels. I mean, yes, Derek Carr wasn't the best, like I just said, but the Raiders also gave up the most double-digit touchdown leads this year. That's not all Derek Carr. Sean Payton can come in and change any organization. And it's interesting when he said, I'm looking for a stable front office. Why is that important? Because a stable front office usually means two things: patience and understanding. In fact, let's probably switch it. Understanding and patience. Understanding means you understand that when I come into here, more than likely, we're not going to be great off the jump unless you go to a team, I don't know, like a Kansas City, like a Chargers, where they already have the quarterback, they already have pieces in order that can get off to a quick start. And the patience, because you don't know what this is going to bring. But the understanding also, because you also understand, you asked me to be here. I'm going through this situation with my intramurals team at work. You asked me to be on the team, right? You came to me and said, Jalen, I want you on the team. People are saying, Sean Payton, we want you on the team. Meaning, you understand my value to said team. You understand Sean Payton's value as a head coach. You just see the success or the... Do you remember how bad the Saints were before Sean Payton and Drew Brees got there? So, if you're going to bring Sean Payton, if you're going to bring me on to coach a team, let me do it my way, because you understand that my way leads to success. A lot of front offices don't understand that, and a lot of front offices don't do that, don't like that. A lot of front offices want their hands in everything, i.e. the Dallas Cowboys. It's hard trying to coach for the Dallas Cowboys, not because of the fan scrutiny or not because they're quote-unquote America's team. It's hard because you have Jerry Jones just always there, always making comments, always looking over your shoulder. That's tough. You don't really have that with good front offices. And I'm not saying Jerry doesn't have a track record of making, I mean, we know the Super Bowls, we know what he's done, but yeah. I'll say this. I think Sean Payton will succeed anywhere, but the one place that I can outside of, I guess, let's say the Broncos. Let's take the Broncos out, because as we see, the Broncos are, I guess, leaders of the pack. I think Sean Payton would be great for any team. Anything. But look at that Cardinals situation. You see, I think where you need someone that is able to, one, garner the respect of Kyler Murray, and two, be able to challenge Kyler Murray. I think that if you don't have respect for somebody, you can't challenge somebody, because nobody, what are you talking about, bro? I think that's where the Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray relationship kind of broke, because why am I going to respect you? Look at your record, bro. Now, I'm not saying that Kyler Murray doesn't have a point to play in this, because Kyler Murray has a lot to play in that. But there's no way that Kyler Murray can look at Sean Payton and think, oh, I'm better. No. Sean Payton has a Super Bowl. Sean Payton has had his Saints teams multiple times in contention for a Super Bowl. You see what Drew Brees looked like before Sean Payton and after, well, not after, but before Sean Payton, and then when he went with Sean Payton. So I think that now, yes, the front office situation might be a little sketchy as far as the Arizona Cardinals, but I think Sean Payton and the Cardinals would be a slam dunk if he does not go to the Broncos. Because again, kind of like Derek Carr as well, I think this is a bad year for Russell Wilson. I think next year is probably the most important year for Russell Wilson because if he has another bad year, it's over with. It is over with. The Broncos are going to find a way to get off of him. It's over with. I'm not saying over as far as his career, but that elite status that he has had is over with. So I think I'm very interested to see where Sean Payton goes because Sean Payton is one of those people when we talk about Kyle Shanahan, when we talk about Sean McVay. The Rams are another team to look at when we talk about Sean Payton because we don't know if Sean McVay is going to come back. But when we talk about great coaching, Sean Payton is one of them. And I'm interested to see where he goes. So, we'll see. As I told you guys, I'm going to break down I'm going to give my predictions for the wild card. There's multiple teams that are in, of course, and the wild card starts tonight. But I didn't want to do it alone. I wanted to bring my man's Parnell. He is the face of Sports PSP, and you can go. I'll link his description. I'll link all his links in the description below. I wanted to bring him on and get his take because he is very opinionated. He's very he has some interesting takes about anything. So I wanted to bring him on and kind of pick his brain and kind of see where he was when we talk about this wild card weekend. And he also gave me predictions we talked about Derek Carr. We talked about probably the most surprising team in the West or in the wild card. So again, I wanted to give you guys my conversation with Parnell, who again is the face of Sports PSP. And me and him are going to give our predictions of each wild card game. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Sports PSP. So we're here. We are here this has been a very interesting season. From injuries to surprise teams, i.e. the Jaguars, we finally have gotten to or arrived at the wild card round. And I want to get your take on something before we give our predictions of all these games that's happening in the wild card. Outside, looking at what we've seen this year, maybe how some teams ended the season, I don't think there's a dominant team. I think every team has for lack of a better term, reason they could lose or weakness. Let's say that.
Right.
And this is the first time in a while that I feel on both sides, maybe the NFC more than the AFC, but I feel on both sides it's a wide open race. Do you agree with, or do you feel the same way?
I actually agree. I mean, people think that Philly may come out the NFC. I actually think San Francisco, believe it or not, actually has a chance. And the reason why I say that, even though Brock Purdy is their third string at quarterback, I just think he's a competent quarterback. They have good enough pieces. I mean, Kyle Shanahan is their head coach. My only problem with him is clock management situations. That's been his Achilles heel. But they have enough pieces. And then Tampa is still there. So you can't disregard Tampa all because of Tom Brady. But Dallas, that's the less superior team. Let's just throw that out the way. And then, of course, Minnesota. I actually think the Giants could actually pull off the upset and beat Minnesota because we've seen Minnesota a couple of times. We saw them in week 17 against Green Bay. And what kind of Minnesota are we going to see? So that's, you know.
Yeah, I agree with you in the sense of every team has a flaw, but every team also has something that you can look to say, well, they won because of X.
Right.
Even in the AFC, man, like I like the Chiefs clearly, but
You have them coming out the AFC?
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure because I don't like their pass defense. I
I
like,
don't either.
their pass defense can get them. They can get them in shootouts, kind of like what happened with
Right.
last year against the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati, I don't like the fact that their big O-line acquisitions are both hurt now.
Right.
The Chiefs, I mean not the Chiefs, the Bills, Josh Allen continues to throw red zone interceptions. It's just I'm not 100% sure. I think this is the first year where you really have to take it round by round. Like you can say I have X winning it, but I don't know if anybody has any faith in that.
I'm
Uh
still gonna go with Buffalo coming out the AFC. Kansas City, look, I like Kansas City. I think Patrick Mahomes has made the case for the MVP, but my problem with Andy Reid, clock management issues, and they had a big lead last year in the AFC Championship game, and then suddenly in the second half they choked. The Bengals, to your point about the offensive line, yeah, it's starting to creep up a little bit. And then when I look at the Bills, I don't understand with Allen with the red zone interceptions. Like
yeah.
I just don't get it. Miami's in the playoff picture, but unfortunately for them, they have no Tua. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to pull that off. And then Baltimore, it seems like Lamar's probably not going to play.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tricky. You're just unsure. But if I had to say, coming out the AFC, I got Buffalo, and in the NFC, I'm gonna go with San Francisco. I
Gotcha.
really do think San Francisco has a legitimate case, even though Philly, they have the number one seed, but Jalen Hurts,
Yeah.
that shoulder injury. And plus, we got to wait and see how he performs come playoff time.
Okay. Yeah, I agree completely. So let's jump in and start these. I guess you've predicted some of it, but give your takes on some of these wild cards. So the first game that we have on Saturday or today is the 49ers at Seahawks. Now, here's the thing.
Right.
I've been on the podcast saying very very open that I was wrong about the Seattle Seahawks. I thought that they would plummet after they traded Russell Wilson.
Likewise.
I
Likewise, you're not the only one.
I mean, you looked in the beginning of the season, their defense was terrible. Now, of course, it picked up over the season, but I the I don't know why I still have a I want to see what Brock Purdy looks like in the playoffs. And I feel kind of like you that the 49ers, in my opinion, is the best overall team in the NFC. When we talk about top to bottom of the roster, it's just with the quarterback. I felt that way when they had Trey Lance. I felt that way when they have Jimmy G, and now with Brock Purdy. I think they have a good shot. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they have a good shot of making it out the NFC. However, for some reason, I have I'm picking the 49ers to win this game. But I don't
Okay.
think this game is going to be as much of a beatdown as a lot of people think
I
because
don't
of
either.
how
I don't
good
either.
Pete Carroll is, because of how good Geno Smith is. I mean, statistically, Geno Smith has been one of the best quarterbacks this year.
Oh,
So
clearly, comeback player of the year.
exactly. So I clearly see that you understand that you have the 49ers winning this game, but how do you see this game going? Do you see it to be a blowout or do you think
I
it's
think
going
it's going to be close. I
Okay.
really do think it's going to be close. Look, Seattle, they need to get the monkey off their back because they've lost to San Francisco twice this season. To your point about with Geno Smith, this is the best football that he's been playing.
Mhm.
And clearly, Seattle won this one because they traded Russell Wilson. They get a top five pick in the 2023 NFL draft. Geno made the Pro Bowl. And then on top of that, Seattle made the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, what more could you possibly ask if you're Seattle? And Pete Carroll probably saw something in Russ that we didn't see. We just thought that, you know what, Pete, you're making a mistake by letting this guy go. He's still at least 4 or 5 more years left in the tank. And
Yeah.
then in Denver, it was just a disaster, but that's a story for another day. But back to Seattle, I think Geno Smith will play relatively well. I don't think he'll be spectacular, but I think he'll play well enough. First time he's been in the playoffs. He's
Mhm.
never been in a stage of this magnitude before. Same thing with Brock Purdy. All you're just asking for Brock Purdy is just take what the defense gives you. Just
Yes.
take what the defense gives you. Kyle Shanahan is going to put him in a position to succeed because of his play calling. Just run the football, establish the football. Gino still got to deal with San Francisco's defense though,
True.
because you
Yeah.
got Bosa, in my opinion, defensive player of the year. You got Fred Warner, one of the best middle linebackers in the NFL, and you got a guy as a defensive coordinator who should be in the conversation for a head coach, D'Amico Ryans,
Yeah.
by the way. So I got San Francisco 27-20.
Got you. I think I kind of feel the same way as you. Brock Purdy doesn't have to do a lot. I think he's the one quarterback pretty much in the playoffs that if you just do the bare minimum, they have a good shot of winning because of everything around them. You have Christian McCaffrey, you have Debo Samuels, of course, that defense, like you said, Fred Warner,
George Kittle.
George Kittle. I'm also probably on the side of you saying that Nick Bosa, in my opinion, is the defensive player of the year. Maybe I actually wouldn't be surprised if Fred Warner won either because of he's the anchor of that defense. But I just
It's hard to
feel
ignore 18 and a half sacks though.
true, very true. I feel I don't think it's going to be to me this game. I think that the 49ers are going to win, but the determining factors how this 49er oh no this the Seahawks defense is going to play. If they
Right.
play like they played in the beginning of the season, and
No, they got no chance.
they have absolutely no chance. And when I mean no chance, they might get destroyed because the 49ers are just humming right now. I mean, they just I don't remember. Oh, they just beat the Cardinals, what, 38-13.
Right.
But I think I'll probably say I don't think it's gonna be as bad. I'm gonna say probably 21. Well, I'm gonna say 30 to 21. I just
That's
I
fair.
just I just
That's fair.
feel I don't think it's gonna be a blowout, but I just feel the 49ers are like, all right, this is what we're here to do. Let's get it done. Get I mean, Geno Smith and the Seahawks was a good run. Runs over. Kind of like what happened to TCU, just not as bad. Not
And
as bad.
I mean, if you saw the video that I did on my Instagram, Stetson Bennett does kind of remind me in ways like Brock Purdy or Jimmy Garoppolo. They're not the most spectacular quarterbacks, but as long as you don't ask them to do too much,
Yeah.
I think they'll be fine. And I think Stetson Bennett, on the flip side, he can actually succeed on the NFL level. It all depends on how you build around him and you put him in the right system. The thing is with San Francisco, I'm interested to see if Brock Purdy can get, hypothetically though, if
Mhm.
he can get them to the Super Bowl and win, does San Francisco made a mistake by trading up by getting Trey Lance? And with Seattle, I mean, yeah, Gino's been playing well, but you got that top five pick. Either you go with defense, which you definitely need, or you either go with Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. So,
Yeah, that's definitely something that you would think about. And if in that case, if you do win a Super Bowl, do you really prioritize quarterback? I know because it's just like we just won one. Like, why would we change that formula? Of course, I and probably you think you would, but
right.
makes a lot of sense. The next game,
I think it'll be close though. The game
I
will be
do,
close.
I do too. The next game, I have to me, this game is a lot closer than people are thinking, and a lot more closer than the Seahawks and the 49ers, and that is Jackson or the Chargers at Jacksonville. And while I the toss up that I have is solely on Brandon Staley.
Yeah.
And because we've seen Brandon Staley was the biggest reason, in my opinion, that they didn't even make the playoffs last year with some of his clock management, some of his play calls, and the positions that they were in. And now, when you look the end of the season, you're playing for nothing. You're not even playing for positioning. And you have Keenan Allen out there. You have Mike Williams out there. You
That's
have
fair.
all your starters. And then, of course, both your wide receivers get hurt. Now, yes, we heard that Mike Williams should be okay, or he may be okay. We don't know. But it's just the 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 Jaguars, especially defensively, they have a defense full of first rounders. And yeah, it's an upset, but I have the Jaguars winning this game. I
I
I
don't think it's much of an upset at all. I actually have Jaguars beating the Chargers too. I just think Jacksonville's defense has been playing better. And I think Doug Peterson coaching compared to what the Jaguars had last year with Urban Meyer, it does make a substantial difference. And even though I was hard on Trevor Lawrence, I just got tired of people anointing him as like the second coming of like Andrew Luck. But clearly, with Doug Peterson, he's definitely elevated his game. Thrown for over 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions. You're seeing much more improvement as far as his game. They have more of a complete team than I think with the Chargers. I just think with the Chargers, Brandon Staley, to your point, the clock management issues. He was here because, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he the defensive coordinator for the Rams before he took the head coaching job with the
Yes.
Chargers?
Yes, he
And the
was.
Rams had like the number one defense in the NFL
Mm.
in 2020. Defense is supposed to be your expertise,
Yeah.
and they've been times the defense have been iffy to say the least. But I got Jacksonville though. I think at home, that atmosphere there, I think they're gonna show up. I got this one 22-19.
Mm. I feel right and due to injuries and everything, I kind of feel that these teams are equal. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'll pick Justin Herbert over Trevor Lawrence, and I'll pick the run game, Austin Eckler over, of course, Travis Etienne. But I think it's gonna come down to coaching. And in this situation, I trust a Super Bowl winning coach in Doug Peterson than I do over Brandon
Brandon Staley.
Brandon Staley. And while yes, you still have some big names, you still have Joey Bosa, but we don't know if Joey Bosa is going to play. It's just
Iffy.
I don't like the recipe, and I don't like the Chargers away. Like the Chargers haven't been world beaters outside of LA this year, so yeah, I probably agree with you. I'll probably say 27-21. I don't know how the hell they're gonna get to 27, but you know, I
It
got the
all
Jack.
to your point, it all comes down to coaching. Doug Peterson, we've seen him before in the Super Bowl and we've seen him in the playoffs. I mean, his results cannot be questioned. So Brandon Staley has a lot to prove.
Yeah.
So based on safeness, I'm gonna go with Doug Peterson.
So before the news came out about Tua not playing, I was going to ask you, do you think Tua should play? But now that we know that Tua will not play, we also know that Teddy Bridgewater more than likely is not going to play. It's over with for the Dolphins. I don't they barely beat the Jets with
Thanks in large part to their defense.
takes a large part to their defense, and the Jets most certainly is not the Bills. So
Right.
you're playing in Buffalo. Ugh, I just
Sounds to me a blowout. And
it's not even close. I don't think it's gonna be
and
close.
forget Tua playing this game. I'm afraid with Tua, is he gonna retire?
Mm.
I mean, given his, I mean, the knock on Tua I've had was durability.
Hmm.
Never his game, never his ability. Even though people don't think he has the strongest arm in the world, I think he has a better arm than people give him credit for. It's just that he can't stay healthy. The amount of punishment he's been taking throughout his career,
Yeah.
and then I just don't know if he's going to continue playing. I mean, I don't think he will retire because part of him feels like I want to play, I want to compete, but Tua's going to have to make a long decision. And then with Teddy Bridgewater, who I like, is a very good backup, smart quarterback. It's going to be a blowout. It's probably Buffalo 37, Dolphins 10.
Yeah, I think I was questioning that, like maybe he should retire. I don't think he will. I agree with you because I mean it seems like he was fighting to play. It's just he didn't pass concussion protocols, and the fact that you had three concussions in a span of 5 weeks, it's like
Right.
or 5 6 weeks. It's like that's I I think there as at a certain point you have to save a player from themselves.
Absolutely.
And I feel that if there wasn't a concussion protocol, we probably would see two out there. And I also think if we didn't see what we saw as far as if it was just a regular concussion, like he's not going to come back due to a concussion, I think that we probably
he probably would be playing. But the
Right.
fact that we saw him stumble and with the whole hands and how his hands were clamped up and that visual.
Right. You don't want to have that again. And given his durability history,
Exactly.
why do this to this young man? I mean, he's only 24 years old.
Not to mention, given the history of this, the Miami Dolphins medical staff, because remember, this is the same medical staff that punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung to the
Right.
point where he couldn't play anymore. Well, he couldn't play and had to. So there's just a lot of factors that I'm actually happy for that Tua is not out there. Now he's going to have to think long and hard about, okay, what do we do in the future with the durability? And game wise, I agree with you. I think it's going to be quick. The last thing the Bills want to do is be in a dogfight. I don't think they will be, but the Dolphins defense is still good.
Right.
I think that they're going to get a couple takeaways and probably be in field goal range a couple times. So I have kind of like you, 38 to, I'll be generous and say 12 because I don't know.
Josh Allen's going to throw some picks, particularly in the red zone, and that's been his problem so far. But Dolphins, after this season, you're going to have to think about getting a quarterback.
Mm.
You're going to have to because, again, you have to think about your future and you're going to have to think about Tua's future as well.
Yeah.
And the Bills, I still have them coming out the AFC. Josh Allen, his problem has just been turnovers. I mean, he's
Mhm.
thrown 14 interceptions this season, which is like almost the most interceptions this year. Dak, if I'm not mistaken, he leads the league in interceptions. I just think Josh Allen just has to take better care of the football, try not to do so much. That's been his problem.
Yeah, and I also want to see. I think this is, of course, against the Dolphins is not going to matter, but I think that deeper in the playoffs, you're really going to start to see the absence of Von Miller really rear
Right.
its head, especially when you're going against a team that has a good offensive line or a team that's good with rushing or scheming. So I don't think they're going to have to worry about that against the Dolphins. So the next game that I think is I'm going to say this a lot, but I think is a lot closer than people think, and a very big game for the Minnesota Vikings, and that is the Giants at Vikings.
Yeah.
I think that this is a big game for Kirk Cousins, and what I mean by that is I think if Kirk Cousins doesn't win this game, he is not a Viking anymore.
You think
After
he's done?
I think not done in the league, but done for the Vikings, because I
No, I'm
mean.
done with the Vikings. Yeah.
Because think about it. You pick him over the coach, which of course that usually happens with the quarterback. You have Justin Jefferson, who damn near broke the record this year. You have Adam Thielen, who still has. You have Delvin Cook. Like
Right.
there's everything is working. I mean, you're 12-4 right now. I think everything is or 13-4. Everything is working in your favor. And then to lose to a Giants team, while yes, I think Brian Daboll has a very good shot of winning Coach of the Year. Daniel Jones has been a lot better than when we thought. Saquon Barkley looks like the Saquon Barkley of old when healthy, but
Their
of course
defense.
he's coming into Saquon Barkley is coming into the playoffs without not healthy. Like you said, the defense has been good with Kayvon Thibodeau. It's like if you lose to this team, a team by the way that was projected to be the worst team in the NFC East coming into the season, and you have all that you have, Zendarius Smith, like I think that it's going to be over for. I think that the Vikings at this point are say, you know what, there's nothing else we can give you. There's nothing else we can. Hell, TJ Hookinson, like there's nothing else we can give you, and you can't get over the hump. Like you can't get through past the wild card. And because of that, I think the Vikings are going to win the game. I think it's going to be close, but I think the Vikings are going to win. What say you?
I think I have the Giants, believe it or not, winning this one. As long as Daniel Jones just takes care of the football. I have this one low scoring game, 19-14 Giants. I just think with Daniel Jones, to help him out, you got to allow him to run some with the football. That's his specialty. That's what he does best, though. With Kirk Cousins, on the other hand, this is probably it. I mean, in Minnesota. Now, I still believe he can go somewhere else and be a starter somewhere else. He's
Yeah.
proven that. But the problem with Kirk Cousins is they've done everything as far as giving him weapons. To your point, they got him Justin Jefferson, Thielen, Dalvin Cook. They acquired TJ Hutchinson in the trade. Kirk Cousins has only won one playoff game in his career.
Yeah.
So the clock is ticking. And plus, with Kirk Cousins, all that Kirk Cousins just needs to do is just take care of the football, don't commit mistakes, don't get into your head. So, what type of Kirk Cousins are we going to see? Because there are games he's given us some 300, some 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, and there are other times he's given us some lackluster performances, like we saw the Monday night game against the Eagles, the Cowboys game, of course,
The
and then the Vikings.
Packers, the
Oh, yeah,
Packers.
Packers. I forgot the Packers. Yeah. So, it all depends on Kirk Cousins' play. Minnesota's defense, like I don't know, like how would you characterize their defense overall?
Terrible. That's all right. You can say
Right.
it's terrible. It's terrible.
So, I got the Giants winning 19-14. I got the Giants in the upset.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that at all. I think the defense is a big question mark. Even though you have the Sendarius Smith and you have the people that you have, it is a big question. Actually, is more of an answer. It's not good. It hasn't been good since probably the second half or the halfway point of the season. And the real question is, can the offense, can Kirk Cousins, can he carry the defense? And I'm not saying carry as far as just him, but can that offense as a whole carry it? And I think he's going to be able to this game, because as we've seen, while yes, the Giants defense is good, there are holes in that defense. And it is at times an immature defense.
Right.
And they get bad penalties a lot. Or sometimes they're one of the highest penalized defensive teams in the
They're
league.
very undisciplined.
So it's just, is that going to rear its head in the playoffs?
I mean, if you're Minnesota and if they're doing dumb penalties, it's your obligation to capitalize.
Yes.
And if you're Kirk Cousins, I don't know, man. I mean, you're in your mid 30s. This is a wonderful. Now, if he loses in the divisional round or in the conference championship game, no shame,
Yeah.
because I don't really expect much from the Minnesota Vikings to begin with. I expected them to win the division because I thought Green Bay was falling apart ever since Devontae Adams being traded and everything else. But you got to get to at least a divisional round or a conference championship game. Kirk
Mhm.
Cousins is good enough to at least do that. Is he the most consistent quarterback in the world? No, but I think he's a good enough quarterback. He's a quarterback of a franchise, not a franchise quarterback. Franchise quarterback is someone who can get you there. He's a quarterback of a franchise. As long as he plays well and doesn't do too much, you'll be just fine. So I think, but I still have the Giants in this one. I don't know why. I just think they're the underdogs. They're on the road. I think there's not really that much expectations for them compared to Minnesota. I think Daniel Jones will play more than solid. I really
Mhm.
do think that he has a big game. Do I think Daniel Jones is the long-term future for the Giants? No, I don't believe so. But I think Brian Dabble has done an excellent job so far utilizing him compared to what he had with Pat Shermer and Jason Garrett.
Mhm.
So to me, it's about coaching. To me, it's how you execute and utilize your strategy. So I got the Giants.
So we don't really have to talk much about this next game, which is the Ravens at Bengals. Lamar Jackson looks like he's not going to play.
Tyler Huntley will probably play.
Tyler Huntley will probably play, meaning the Bengals will win. So I want your assessment on, what do you think is next for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens in their relationship?
I think Lamar is going to have to get traded
Mm.
because I just don't see a situation where you're going to give him the money. He's proven. I don't know what else you want Lamar Jackson to do. He's been to multiple Pro Bowls. He's been a first team All Pro. He's won a league MVP unanimously, mind you. You know, He has been the face of that franchise. He's gotten you to the playoffs. He won you a playoff game. I understand, but and Lamar, to his credit, has gotten better and better as
Mhm.
a passer. The problem with him though is durability because for a quarterback of his caliber and his style, he does run into a lot of hits. And I just think with Baltimore, where else are you gonna find a quarterback that's comparable to him? You
Exactly.
know, so what are you gonna do? I think they've tried. I think it's best for Lamar to move on somewhere else. I mean, does it hurt that the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, isn't his mom his agent or
Yes,
something?
his mom's his agent. Yeah.
Right. I mean, if he had like a big time agent like a Tom Condon or somebody like that, I see his chances of getting the type of contract would be there. So to me, it's uncertain with him in Baltimore.
Let me say this before I give my answer. I understand both sides. I understand Lamar Jackson wanting the money and feeling like he deserves the money. I mean, he's the youngest one of the youngest unanimous MVPs. He led this franchise to multiple playoff berths, won a playoff game. And when you look at who set the mark or who they thought set the market, which was Deshaun Watson, you don't have Lamar Jackson has been more successful than Deshaun Watson. So I understand. And not to mention the fact of you see what the Ravens have been outside, of course, that one Joe Flacco year. You see what the Ravens have,
Right.
before Lamar Jackson's got there. And I also understand the Ravens side as far as why would we pay a 200, 250, whatever guaranteed contract to a player that the last 2 seasons has missed the last 5 games of the season. It's like especially the way Lamar Jackson plays, and we saw, of course, I'm glad he's good now, but Damar Hamlin, one play is over with, and
Right.
you don't want to give that much guaranteed money to a player that I guess in their eyes you can say plays reckless at times.
Right.
Here's the thing. I, of course, I'm always going to be pro player. I understand, and I think this is going to be the biggest off season of the Ravens immediate
History.
history, immediate future, and down the road, because it's like this. I feel if you come to Lamar Jackson and talk about we're going to franchise tag you, I don't think he's going to sign the franchise tag, and I don't think
Yep.
he's going to show up. At that point, that is over with. The relationship is over. And what you're starting to see now, or not starting to see, what you've seen this year is that we know that this team is built around Lamar Jackson. This team, unlike there's no other team in the league that's built around their quarterback like the Ravens are built around Lamar Jackson. But what we're starting to find out is it is a very inadequate team that is built around Lamar Jackson. I mean, the season's pretty much over in a lot of people's eyes when Rashad Bateman goes out,
Right.
that tells you everything then you have to bring in, Deshaun Jackson. You have to bring in Sammy Watkins.
Right.
So I understand it's like, yo, you see what you're putting on, and you see what you're putting on paper. Yo, this is not going to work, and it's not going to work without me.
Right.
Now, one thing that I haven't understand as a fan is the Ravens know that they've built this team around Lamar Jackson. So if you know you've built it around Lamar Jackson, why not pay the person that you built the team around? So I get it. I get it. I think, like you said, this is going to be one of the most
Do you think he
important.
has to pull off a Kyler?
I don't think he has to pull off. I think he's silently pulling off a Kyler right now, not playing. I think he's good enough to play, but it's just like, what? Why play? Why risk injury? Why risk further injury?
Right.
If you guys if when I'm completely healthy and I'm MVP and when he was playing, the Ravens were the number 1 seed in the NFC. I mean, I'm sorry, AFC.
AFC.
So it's like you see all this, and then I get hurt. Now you're gonna bring it? No. I think he's quietly pulling off a Kyler now, and I think that the Ravens are gonna get their heads blown in by the Bengals. in with Tyler Huntley. I'm not gonna say heads blown. I think they're gonna win. They're gonna lose. And it's just, if you come to me after what you saw this season, after the fact of this team cannot score without me, and you talk about franchise tag, yeah, no, it's over with. B,
Right.
just silent. It's over. You can.
I think it all depends on Tyler Huntley's play. If he plays well enough
Oh,
for
no.
the Ravens,
Oh no. Okay.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it does, though, I don't know. I mean, Lamar got to get your money because Deshaun Watson, given all the off the field issues, got his money, $230 million. Kyler got his money, even though Kyler is not as accomplished than Lamar Jackson, and he has more of a chance to be severely injured than Lamar because Kyler's not the biggest quarterback in the world, and I love Kyler. But I think with Lamar, at some point, this is your guy. This is the face of the franchise. You got to build around him. If Dak can get his money, if Kyler can get his money, Deshaun could get their money, and they haven't gotten that far in the playoffs, why not Lamar?
Not only that, they're not as important to their teams as Lamar Jackson is to the Baltimore Ravens.
He's very pivotal to that organization.
Pivotal. He is. They need to build a statue now in Baltimore. That's all I'm saying. So I don't know how or where I'm going with this last game. And that is, of course, Dallas. Or no, is Dallas at
Tampa Bay.
Dallas at Tampa Bay. I know everyone keeps saying Tampa Bay has a shot because of Tom Brady.
Right.
But Tom Brady's been there all year, and they're below 500. Tom Brady isn't at the point of his career where he can overcome a poor offensive line or a non-existent rushing attack, or the fact that you don't, for some reason, don't have any type of chemistry with Mike Evans or Chris Godwin outside of one game where Mike Evans went crazy, or the fact that the defense still has big names, however, hasn't really been big this entire year. I feel that. And then Dallas comes in, Dak Prescott, like you said, leading the league in interceptions. The run game, how is Tony Pollard going to be? How is Zeke going to be? The offensive line's kind of been bad this last few weeks. The defense, Michael Parsons, who was my defensive player of the year until about halfway point,
regressed.
Yeah, regressed mightily. The whole defense regressed mightily. So the coaching, I like Todd Bowles, but is Todd Bowles, is he able to coach his way to a win? And I don't think I've seen that this year. I know they've won, but I feels like their wins have been because Tom Brady does some miraculous, or they're playing a trash team. I mean, they were down 16 points to the Panthers. So I think I'm gonna let this conversation between me and you decide who I pick, because I do not have a pick right now. But I
Tampa.
I can see it going both. I can see it going both ways. But why do you have Tampa?
I have Tampa because Dallas yet again is prone to making mistakes. And I was listening to Jerry on his show, 105.3 The Fan. He's saying that Mike McCarthy's job is not at stake. And Stephen A. Smith, I was listening to him on First Take. He said that Jerry's lying. Mike McCarthy ain't going nowhere. As long as Mike McCarthy does exactly what Jerry Jones tells him what to do, nothing else matters, which is why I don't see him getting a Sean Payton or whoever at head coach, because Jerry wants credit. Jerry wants to have final say. To get a guy like Sean Payton, you got to allow him to do his job. Dak, on the other hand, we saw the game against Washington last week.
Yeah.
And Washington was out of the playoff contention, and Dak looked horrible. Like the pick six that he threw, and then before that, the other, what should have been an interception. Dak overall has been playing sloppy football. Some of those interceptions, that's on him. Some of that's also on the wide receivers. When you look at this defense, I mean, this is a big statement game for Dan Quinn. I mean, because you gotta perform and do well for this defense, because you're in pursuit of getting a head coaching job. And if you screw up, then this is going to hurt your chances. So with me, I got Tampa win this one 27-17. because I think Brady will get the job done. If you make mistakes and if you give Brady an opportunity, he will capitalize off of it. And then with Dallas, all we're going to hear is, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're not going to do anything. They're not going to fire Mike McCarthy. They're going to keep the roster where it is. The question is, how are they going to keep Dan Quinn and Kellen Moore? That's the bigger question.
I'm not as high on Kellen Moore as a lot of people, seeing as though I've seen this offense this year and it's been this last few years and it's regressed. I don't know, man.
I trust him more than Mike McCarthy.
That's
I mean, Mike McCarthy has proven he's nothing more than Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, a product of those two quarterbacks. Jerry will still keep him because he's like Jason Garrett. He's a guy that Jerry Jones likes. Jerry Jones can tell him what to do. They can have their beer and nachos or whatever it is that they do.
Yeah.
And Mike McCarthy, his problem, we talk about clock management issues with Brandon Staley. Mike McCarthy's up there as well.
You might be the poster boy of poor clock management. Yeah.
And penalties.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
Wow.
I'm going to go with the Cowboys because the thing that's beaten the Tampa Bay Buccaneers most of this year is running the ball. If you run, you can get yards off running. You can get rushing yards off Tampa Bay. And that has been Dallas's strongest point. And I have seen most of these last few games, Tampa Bay has had to come back. And I have absolutely no conviction in my pick. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm gonna do Dallas just because I feel.
Damn. It seems like to me you're saying that because I hope I'm not taking the wrong way. It seems like you're starting to lose a little faith in Brady.
I'm losing faith. It's not. Yeah, I am, and it's not as much as faith because I've seen what he does. I saw this year, and everyone on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has been bad this year.
Right.
Brady has been equally as bad. Now you can say it's because of the offensive line. You can say it's because of the run game. You can say whatever you want. Brady has not been good. Brady has not been sharp. If there's a reason why Brock Purdy looks superior to Brady when they played the 49ers. Now, yes, I understand that the 49ers defense is legit, but I have seen Brady this year, and Brady has not had one game where I was just like, "Oh wow, that looks." Yeah, he's had
the Carolina game.
Yeah, he had game-winning drive, but outside of that, they were down 16 to Carolina. So, and they lost. Now, yes, I understand a whole bunch of people didn't play, but they lost to the Falcons like this week or last week badly. So it's just, man, I'm going to do I just don't like, I mean, first of all, this team is under 500. I don't think Dallas, with all their mistakes, I just don't think this is the game that is going to come back and bite them. Yes, I understand that Brady could do something, but I just don't think that this is going to be the game that
Brady. But do you trust Dak though? Because
I don't, but I trust that running game more than I trust anything from what I've seen from the Bucs this year. Yes, I trust Brady, but not a sense of he is a big reason why they're 8-9. Yes, stats don't. I always say this, and I don't remember who said it, so I'm not the originator. Stats don't lie, but stats don't tell the whole story.
Exactly.
Yes, you can look, and Brady is top 5 in passing yards this year, but they're 8-9.
Yeah, and if you look at some of their games, a lot of those times come from garbage time.
Exactly. That, and we talk about that with Dak a lot. Like Dak was the king at garbage time. Dak was like, yo, Dak had 400 yards. Yeah, they lost by 15 points. Like, of course, he was just throwing.
I think Dak Prescott is under the most pressure because he's got this contract, he's got his money, he's got like what 2 years left,
Hmm.
and the clock's ticking, man. If you don't deliver this one, I don't see how Jerry Jones is going to give you another contract in Dallas.
So you brought up a good point, and maybe it is still Dak, but I want to ask you, I guess, a curveball question. Out of all the games, all the players, who do you think is under the most pressure to win this wild card game? And while because I threw it to you, I'll probably give mine.
Okay.
Yo, we kind of talked about this, but if Kirk Cousins does not win this game, man, I think that it's everything is falling upon Kirk Cousins to win this game. The stars are aligning. Saquon Barkley is not healthy. We know Daniel Jones. Everything is falling. The stars is aligning for Kirk Cousins to win this game. And if he does not win, it's like we've done. We even get the coach. We don't have any questions about the coach outside of maybe clock management in Minnesota. The biggest question that we have outside of the defense being bad is, can Kirk Cousins get them over the hump? And if you can't get them over the hump against a team where their best player is hobbled, and they're not good when their best player is hobbled, that is the Giants, then I think that it's over with. I think that it's over with. I don't think. Let me say this: if Dak Prescott, which I think is a good second, if Dak Prescott does not win this game, I don't think that it's over with for Dak Prescott. I don't think that. I think they're going to say, well, you gave up Amari Cooper. The offensive line's getting older. The running game, Tony Pollard's not hurt. I mean, not healthy. I think that there's excuses. Of course, Mike McCarthy might not be there, even though Jerry Jones said he probably will. There's excuses for Dak.
Right.
Outside of the defense, there's really no excuse for Kirk Cousins if they lose this game. So I think Kirk Cousins is probably, in my opinion, under the most pressure this weekend.
I agree. You make a valid point, though. I mean, with Dak, there are a lot of other things you can look at and you blame. You can look at Kellen Moore, with his questionable play calling, and he's under a lot of pressure as far as getting a head coaching job, as well as Dan Quinn. I look at Mike McCarthy. I don't believe he will face any pressure. He's going to keep his job because as long Jerry Jones loves you, until Jerry reaches a point where I've had enough, he's still going to be there. Kirk Cousins, other than Dak, I'd probably say Kirk Cousins because for all the reasons that you said, it's tailor made for you. They've gotten you pieces. The defense is questionable, and I'm being generous when I say that. But I don't know, man. I mean, Kirk Cousins has got to get it done. Has got to get it done. Got to get it done. The underrated team I have, Seattle. I think Seattle is underrated, but Kirk Cousins is under the most pressure, if not anybody. And then after that, I go with Dak because I just think with Dak, man, you've been considered the best quarterback in your division for a long time now. And I think Jalen Hurts has taken that. Had it not been for injury, Jalen Hurts probably would have won the MVP. So
you alluded to it, which was my next curveball, was who's the most underrated or slept on team, and you said
Seattle.
Seattle.
I say Seattle because I just think, to your point, the defense early on, they weren't playing particularly well, but now they've gotten better. I just think Geno is playing at a very high level. I can't believe I'm actually saying that about Geno, but I think this has been a rejuvenation for him. And I just think with Seattle, the 12th man, the fan base there, look, we agree. We believe San Francisco is going to win this game, but not by a blowout, though.
Yeah.
We do expect I mean, look, if the Raiders can score some points against that 49ers defense, I would like to believe Geno could score some points. But I think Geno, as long as he plays this well, and I think Pete Carroll, as long as he continues doing what he's doing, I think they are very underrated and then slept on. I do.
I think a lot of reasons that you say the Seahawks is why I'm going to say Jacksonville.
Okay.
And the fact that Jacksonville is peaking at the right time. Kind of like the Lions, which it's kind of sucks that they weren't able to make the playoffs. But when you're peaking at the right time and you have momentum going into the playoffs, it's all the more better. And again, you're talking about a team that had Urban Myers and that fiasco last year to now a team that nobody really wants to play because they're such a balanced team. Now it's not like a overly balanced team, but it's such a balanced team that they can beat you in a slug out game. They can beat you in a high scoring game. It's just, Trevor Lawrence can't make a lot of mistakes or whatever, but the same exact way that you talked about the 49 or the Seahawks are the same way I talk about the Jaguars. Now, yes, we both have the Jaguars winning that game, but it's not. I think that there's a good possibility that they're not just a one and done team. Now, it depends on who they land next round, but I wouldn't be surprised if they knocked off a Chiefs or knocked off a Bills. Not saying that I wouldn't pick them to, but if it happened, I wouldn't be like that. Like I was more shocked at. I was more shocked at and probably proud of Mike Tomlin getting above 500 than I was.
Never had a losing record. I don't know how he does it.
And I know it's kind of hard to say. Like, wait, so you're saying the division winner is an underdog? But yeah, I mean, we know how bad the AFC South has been in this year. So yeah. Oh, lastly, before you go, where's Derek Carr going next year?
Either the Jets. I wouldn't mind him in DC because I've had enough of Carson Wentz. If you go on my YouTube videos, I've said before, I never wanted Carson Wentz in the first place. I would much rather wanted Taylor Heineke or Sam Howell to start in that game against Cleveland, and then dumb Ron Rivera was clueless. But I don't want to get into that. That's a story for another day. But with Derek Carr, I feel sad for him because it seems like the Raiders did him dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And look, he may not be the best quarterback in the world, but hearing what Devontae Adams said about him, which was a huge reason why he came to the Raiders, and considering everything what Derek Carr has been through, with John Gruden, Henry Ruggs, who was the football player that had that gun issue? Was it Damon Arnett?
Yeah,
Damon Arnett. Their defense is just pitiful, and you got two Pro Bowl defensive ends in Crosby and Jones who can get you double-digit sacks. I would like to see him with the Jets because I think if you pair him with a good enough defense, and they've got good enough weapons with Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore and Berrios, the Jets could actually make the playoffs. And they were close enough to make the playoffs. We saw more potential with Mike White and Flacco than Zach Wilson. Yeah. So imagine a competent quarterback like Carr playing for a team like the Jets and Washington, because Washington actually had chances to make the playoffs as well too. So those are the two scenarios I would like to see him play.
I think I like the Jets. Breece Hall coming back next year. That Robert Saleh. I didn't realize until he got let go pretty much. That is Derek Carr, that he's never played with a defense above 25th or like ranked 25th, which is crazy. There's
never had that in his career.
I think I want to see what the Colts do in the draft. If the Colts get TJ or CJ Stroud, then I don't see Derek Carr. But if they go a different route, like if they might go, I don't know, defense or whatever, because we know Darius Leonard, who was previously Shaq Leonard, we know his kind of injury history at this point.
Right.
What are they going to, is DeForest Buckner going to come back? Like we don't know. I could see them doing that because, I mean, one of them Georgia boys might get it. But if they don't go with TJ Stroud or CJ Stroud, I can see Derek Carr going to the Colts.
I think Colts are going to draft a quarterback this time because I think they've just had enough. I mean, look, we saw what happened last year with Carson Wentz. That didn't work out. Yeah. I mean, Phillip Rivers, it did work out because at least he was able to get you to the playoffs. So I think they want to look forward, build around with a young quarterback. I mean, Jeff Saturday, look, I like him. I just didn't think he was worthy of being the head coach because he had no coaching experience on the NFL, on the collegiate level. You just brought him there because relations. He's a
Yeah.
beloved figure there. So you got to give him a competent to work with. I mean, Carl, I would like him in Indy to pair him up with Jonathan Taylor, to pair him up with that offensive line. But I think Indy is going to look forward to drafting the quarterback, especially if CJ Stroud is available.
So again, I wanted to thank my man Parnell again. Definitely, I'll again put all his links to all his stuff in the description below. That was our breakdown of the wild card. And before I go, I guess coaching is the theme of this episode. We talked about Sean Payton. I want to end this episode with a report that came out saying that Michigan wants to or doesn't want to move forward or wants to halt contract negotiations with Jim Harbaugh until the NCAA investigation comes out. The NCAA investigation, for people that don't know, apparently Jim Harbaugh may have talked to some recruits or something during the COVID period, which you're not supposed to do. That's a class 1 offense, which can lead up to maybe 5 or 6 games suspension or something like that. And I said coaching was the theme of this episode because, again, we talked about Sean Payton. I brought Parnell in. We kind of talked about the Derek Carr situation. We kind of talked about Brandon Staley's situation as far as the pressure that Brandon Staley has on him, especially with Mike Williams not playing now. Let me... college football, you have to have realistic expectations. And you have to have realistic glasses when you look at some things in college football. People are very critical of Jim Harbaugh. But why is that? People are very, very critical of Jim Harbaugh because they understand how great of a coach Jim Harbaugh is. They may not want to admit it, but everywhere Jim Harbaugh has gone, whether it's Stanford, whether it's the 49ers, now Michigan, he has changed the program, or he has changed the culture of the team. I'll be real with you. Colin Kaepernick wasn't that good of a quarterback. He was good, but he wasn't a great quarterback. I'm not taking away from what he stood for. I'm not taking away from the impact that he's made off the field or on the field, taking the knee and I'm not taking away from that, but Colin Kaepernick, when we talk about the history of quarterbacks, he's not the greatest quarterback. He doesn't have the greatest mechanics. But what Jim Harbaugh was able to take that team to the Super Bowl. Him, Peyton Willis on the defensive side of the ball, was able to take that team to the Super Bowl. And kind of spearheaded the powerhouse that is the 49ers. Now, yes, the 49ers had a history with Steve Young and Jerry Rice. I get that. But kind of like Michigan, there was a good long period where the 49ers were not good. And once Jim Harbaugh came, he changed the face. He changed the perception. He changed the way that we looked at the 49ers. Do you remember how bad Michigan as a program was before Jim Harbaugh got there? The Brady Hoke era. Do you remember that? How bad of a team Michigan was? And now Michigan averages 10 wins a season. But of course, you look at Jim Harbaugh and you think, well, did he beat Ohio State? Did he beat Ohio State? He beat Ohio State twice in a row now. I'm saying all this to say this. You don't play hardball. No pun intended. You don't play hardball with greatness. What do I mean by that? Say this same investigation was on, I don't know, Nick Saban. You think Alabama would be like, I don't know if we should keep Nick. I don't know if we should keep Nick Saban. I don't know if we want Nick Saban. We're not going to do anything until after the investigation. Hell no. In fact, I'm almost sure if Nick Saban would have a new contract tomorrow or yesterday, if the NCAA was investigating Alabama. We just talked about Kirby Smart, and we talked about Georgia State, talked about Georgia Bulldogs. Do you think if there was an NCAA investigation on Kirby Smart, you think to themselves, you know what, we're going to hold off on Kirby Smart. We don't know yet. We don't know. No. He would have signed his contract 2 weeks ago. You see, I know what you're going to say. Well, Jalen, the difference between Kirby Smart, the difference between the difference between Nick Saban, the difference between Jim Harbaugh is they have national championships. Kirby Smart has a national championship. Nick Saban has a national championship. Yeah. Georgia also is a different level. The SEC is a different level of recruit. It's hard to recruit Michigan. Nobody wants to play in the cold. But even then, you still get players like Blake Corn. You still get players, and you still get to the college football playoffs. So I'll say all that to say this, man. Play with Jim Harbaugh if you want to. In fact, let Jim Harbaugh leave Michigan. Now, I don't think Michigan's going to just fall off a map, but give it a few years, and you'll see. Now, of course, if they hit a home run on a head coach, cool. But give it a few years, and you'll see the difference. And you don't believe me? Look at Oregon. Look at Oregon with Chip Kelly, and look at Oregon after Chip Kelly. Look at Oregon with Chip Kelly. Look at Oregon without Chip Kelly. Don't believe me? Look at Oklahoma this year without Lincoln Riley compared to with Lincoln Riley. Look at Clemson without Dabo Swinney and with Dabo Swinney. What I'm saying is this, Michigan, if you're already competing with other people in keeping or in this Jim Harbaugh sweepstakes. Play Harbaugh if you want to, and lose somebody like Jim Harbaugh and his influence on that program, and you'll understand. That's all I'll say on that. And there you have it, man. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. Again, I appreciate Parnell, the face of the Sports PSP, for coming on. I appreciate all you guys for listening, all you guys for watching. It definitely means a lot to me. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve, joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. I'm sure it'll look great on you. The weather is still cold, so get your hoodies, get your sweaters, get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to if you're listening. Please subscribe to if you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I'm trying to grow the podcast, and I need your help. I can't do it alone. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you have a good weekend. I hope you have a great, wild card weekend. And until next time, much love.